Hi folks, Travis Fox here with foxoptic.com. Today I'm going to be walking you through how to manipulate and use, in this case it's going to be the Pulsar Thermion LRF. This is actually an XL, but that really wouldn't matter. It would apply to any of the Thermion XQ50, XP50, XG50, or XL50 LRF units. And honestly, other than the LRF functions, everything that I'm going to show you in terms of the menu would apply to any of the new Thermion 2 or Thermion 2 Pro units. So let's jump inside the menu and I'm going to go over some things and we'll familiarize you with this scope. So for starters, I'm going to work through the task line down. I'm going to call it the task line down here at the bottom. If you look at the bottom of the screen down there, in the lower left-hand corner, you're going to see a little circle with a white dot in it. Effectively, that's telling me that I'm in the white hot mode. If I were to put this scope into the black hot mode, via the color palettes, which we'll go over that here in a minute, but if I were to choose that, you can see now where that's got a black dot in the middle. So in the white hot, black hot, it kind of can become a little disorienting in certain situations as to which palette you're in, so they just give you that little indicator. If you're in any of the other palettes, it's not going to give you an indicator down there. The next thing we're looking at is where it says 6C105. Effectively, that's telling me the profile, and so in the case of this one, it's a ballistic profile. If it were a traditional profile, it would be showing me both the profile name and the yardage point that I'm on, or the aiming point that I'm on. So like in the case of this one, where I've got multiple aiming points, you can see there where it says I'm on F profile, but my 100-yard aiming point. So if I were to go out of this menu, drop into the quick menu, and change those aiming points, you can see where as I change the aiming points, that actively changes in that lower left-hand corner. That way there, at any point in time, I can always look down there and know which profile I'm on and which aiming point I'm on, which is very important because from one time to the next, you go to use the scope. I mean, especially if you get a lot of profiles, like say you've got several different loads that you shoot on a particular gun and you're utilizing different profiles in there, and or like, maybe you're taking advantage of the fact that you could have up to 10 aiming points set in there, that can become a little disorienting as to which one you're on. So that's basically a quick, fast way to look and tell what you've got going on there. The next one is giving me my indication as to which of the amplification modes I'm in. The amplification modes are basically algorithmic changes in the program that adjust the contrast gradient, like temperature to gradient image in the scope, so that like in a really high humidity condition or something like that, where things get really kind of gray and drab and everything's kind of in the mid-range because there's not a lot of temperature separation, the program will attempt to add, to scrunch up on some of the hotter portion of the gradient at the top and then expand at the lower portion to make the image more vibrant. So I don't really think it's so important that you understand how it work, other than just, if you hit at really high conditions, know that going, if you hit high humidity conditions, or if you're trying to get good outline, identifications on something way out there, sometimes increasing that amplification mode can be a little bit of help. Whereas if you're up close to something, you have a lot of temperature differential and temperature contrast, putting it in normal mode and making some brightness and contrast adjustments on your own can be the better way to go. So, the high mode's obviously in the middle of those. So next symbol we've got down there is just indicating to me, the little wavy lines there are indicating to me that I have the smoothing filter turned on. We'll go over that as we get into the menu. The next little letter item there is telling me that I'm in automatic calibration mode, and as you can see, that little 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown timer came up to tell me that it was getting ready to calibrate. So if you could see there where the image froze for about a second, it was performing that calibration, or what a lot of people will refer to as a nuke or a non-uniformity correction. The next little symbol there is the microphone. Obviously, it's telling me that the mic is on. If it had a slash line over top of it, that would be indicating to me that the microphone is off. Next up, we have the magnification level. It's telling me what magnification I currently have the scope at. So there you can see where I'm at 1.75x. You know, if I were to short press the plus button up here on top and zoom in, you can see where that's changing. And I have the ability to manipulate that. So let's go over that button while we're on that feature. The plus button up here on the top is how you're going to perform zooming. If you short press the button to activate the zooming feature, it's going to come up over there on the right hand side and tell you what magnification level you're at. Additional presses while that's active are going to double you in magnification. So you can see where I went from 1.75 to 3.5. If I tap it again while it's active, I'm going to go to 7 and then 14. And then once I'm at the top, all the way back down to 1.75. Likewise, if I want to smooth zoom the unit, I can press that button one time to activate it and then start rolling the encoder while that's active. And you can see where that will allow me to basically infinitely zoom inside the power range when I'm on the main screen. So I can zoom all the way from the 1.75x up to 14 or back down just by rolling the knob with that active. If I want to initiate the PIP or the picture-in-picture zooming function, I initiate with a long press on that button. So just to be clear, what I'm talking about when I'm talking short press, long press, a short press is just going to be like you were taking a picture on a camera, you know, just press and release. A long press, press and hold down for about 1 second. So if I initiate with the long press on that button, I'm going to get the picture-in-picture function is going to pop up. And so when the picture-in-picture function is up, intuitively, they're going to leave the base screen at the maximum field of view or the minimum amount of magnification and just give you control over the PIP. The way the PIP has to leave some margin in order for the magnification to work and fit inside of that box, the PIP always has to be 2 times the base screen magnification minimally. So it can be, you know, it's going to be, in the case of this one, at 1.75x base magnification, the picture-in-picture is going to allow you to vary between 3.5 and 14, but you won't be able to get below 3.5. So, you know, you also can't adjust the base screen. It's, you know, and so the reason for that is they're wanting to give you that maximum field of view in the base screen, coupled up with the ability to take those longer range shots with more precision in the PIP and have control just over that, because the reticle in the PIP and the reticle on the base screen both point at the same place in the image. So I mean, their point of impacts are identical. So long story short, likewise in the PIP, if I short press, you'll see where I'm going to get magnification changes in the PIP itself by doing additional short presses, or again with it active, if I roll the encoder dial, I'm going to get smooth zooming function. So past the magnification, we are going to see the Bluetooth symbol. That's just telling me that I've got the Bluetooth turned on. I've got, you know, the scope has a Bluetooth antenna in it, which will allow you, like in the case of this one, I've got a little remote control that comes with the XL that doesn't come with some of the other Pro and Pro LRF units, but you can buy it as an option for any of the devices that have the Bluetooth feature in them. That remote will essentially allow me to perform all the same functions. I could put it down here, you know, on the side of a tripod, or have that in my pocket. I wouldn't have to reach up on top there to perform the button functions. And they're decently inexpensive. I think around $50 for that remote. So, you know, it could be a pretty good feature, but it might be something you have to buy with your device. Next to the Bluetooth symbol, you'll see where we have a little, basically looks like a little power icon with 5 minutes. Inside the scope, there is a feature, and we'll get to that in a minute here in the menu, and I'll show you where that's at, but there is a feature that you can turn on or off, that if the scope is like basically out of position, so if it's vertical, you know, either up or down, you know, on your gun, you stick it over in a corner, you put it in the gun safe, something like that, it will turn itself off after so many minutes of inactivity. There's also another feature in there with no movement at all on the thing. In other words, if you don't hit any buttons or there's nothing going on, it will completely shut down. You know, you can vary the time on that as well. But that's giving me indication on, you know, just the proximity sensor for the vertical. So, and I've got, you can see where I've got that set at a 5-minute shutdown. Next to that, we have the clock. So it's, you know, it's just telling me it's 3:39 p.m. currently. And then over there to the right of that, we have the battery number 1 and battery number 2. So battery number 1 is the internal battery inside of the scope. It is rechargeable. There's a USB-C port on the right-hand side of the scope that allows you to charge that battery. And then under the elevation cap, or what looks like an elevation cap on a traditional scope, is a removable battery. I'm running the taller cap in the APS-3 here. Your scope's going to come with both a 2 and a 3 cap, but it will typically come with 2 batteries depending on which scopes you have. So I just prefer to run the taller ones for a little more power, but you know, a little more run time. So if you pull, so let me explain to you how the battery system works first off. So if you see where the number 2 battery is white and it's telling me it has 72%, and my internal battery, which is number 1, is gray and it's at 100, what that's indicating to me is right now I'm running on the number 2 battery. So the way the system works, it wants to continually run on the battery that is removable if it's possible, and use this internal battery as if it were a reserve tank and for uninterruptible power switches. So if I were to turn around and pull that battery out of here right now, you'll see where the number 2 battery has went gray because it's no longer running. It's switched seamlessly to the internal number 1 battery. And if I were to come up here and drop a new battery into the equation, it's going to switch right back to that number 2, and you can see now where I've got a 1 and a 2 and they're both at 100%. So if I'm out there in the field, I notice my number 2 gets down to 5 or 10% and I want to make a swap on it, I can make that swap. I don't have to shut the device off. It's going to use the internal to keep the thing powered while I'm making the switch, and then as soon as I get that in there, it's going to switch right back off of it. The importance of that is they include a 2-bay charger, so I have the ability to charge that other number 2 battery. And so the beauty of that is, because I have the ability to charge that number 2 battery out of position, you know, I could throw it on my little 2-bay charger with the cell phone brick pack, you know, if I'm at a remote camp or if I'm in my box blind or something like that, and I could actually be charging that while I'm still fully utilizing the scope. So additionally, on the screen up in the top right, or excuse me, top left corner, you can see where the record function is running. I can't obviously show you how to shut that off, but on the top of your scope, you have an REC button. And if you do short press on the REC button and you're in the video mode, essentially you're going to start records. Additional short press once you've started recording. So the indication on record is the red dot and the timer. If you do an additional short press on that REC button, you're going to pause. So you're not actually going to stop and save the video, you're just going to pause. So the situation you might use that would be if I'm out here hunting and I get a coyote, works up to me, and you know, I can see him, you know, way off in the distance, but maybe there's a hill between me and him, and he's coming in and I'm recording it, but he goes behind the hill and he goes out of sight and I can't see him, and you know, maybe that's going to take quite a bit of time, and I'm not real good with video editing and things like that, so I want to pause that until he re-emerges. I could reach up, click the record button, pause it, you'll get a little pause symbol up there, and then as soon as he re-emerges, hit the record button again, and it will just basically take off seamlessly and start recording again from that point where you paused it. And then when I'm all done with that recording, I'm going to do a long press on that REC button to stop and save that video, and it will give me the video camera icon back to indicate to me that it stopped, and the little red dot will go away, timer. I won't get a pause symbol, obviously. Other than that, with regards to the record, if you initiate initially with a long press on that REC button, you are going to switch from the video recording mode to the camera mode. And that will indicate to you, you'll get a little symbol up there that looks like an actual camera rather than a video recorder. And at the end of that, if you would push the REC button, a short press, you're just going to take a still image. So, I mean, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I'm gonna jump into the quick menu here real quick and show you how that works or what you can perform from that. But before we go there, let me just kind of tell you functionally on the outside of the scope from you know, an operational standpoint. Obviously on this unit you have your focus adjustments up here, so you can see if I look over here and kind of focus there on the tree line right in front of me versus if I focus, let's say, back here, you can see where I'm able to blur and clear that. So essentially I'm changing my point of focus by adjusting this knob. Back here on the eyepiece, I have a diopter focus that I'm able to turn. Essentially that's just setting clarity for my eye to the display in there. So, you know, if you're like me and you're getting a little older and have to wear cheaters from time, sometimes you might have to make a little adjustment on that so that you can see the letters and the numbers and, you know, the icons and the images in that display clearly. But just know this is a fast focus feature and you can adjust that. You know, so those are the two main functions you're going to be performing there in addition to what I'm showing you. So let's get into the quick menu. To get into the quick menu, while you're on the main screen, you're just going to do a short press on the encoder to pop up the quick menu. That's the menu that you're seeing now on the right hand side of the screen. If you just press it and release it, you can see where it pops back down. I think it's about 3 seconds. So when you hit the quick menu, if you do additional short presses on the we're going to call this the encoder button over here, you can toggle between the menu options, and then to make adjustments on any of those menu options. So like in the case of this option, it's the brightness option is this one that looks like the sun. And when I'm turning that up and down, you can see where I'm increasing and decreasing the overall screen brightness. Now, typically, if you're turning brightness up, you're going to want to follow that up with a contrast adjustment to kind of reweight the image. So be cautious that when you're making those brightness adjustments, that if you take it up too far, depending on which palette you're in, you're going to set a limit on how far up you can take contrast. So that can become important, because if you set brightness too high, you might not be able to get your contrast up high enough. And if your image still doesn't look quite the way you want it, just remember, say you get that contrast up to 20, you might have to come back and adjust. So like, let me show you here what I'm talking about. If I were to run brightness to 20 in this, at this moment right now, I don't think that looks nearly as good as if I were to jump down here on the contrast. See, and I make adjustment, it just gets more and more washed out. Where if I come back over here to the brightness and turn that down, you see where I start to get a little bit more richness in the image, because I'm getting that contrast where it's, you know, it's separating the color temperature differentials and giving me more of a vivid image contrast inside the display. So I think that is going to pretty much, well, actually, no, here, I got to get through the rest of these quick menu items. So there's contrast and brightness. These are your amplification levels. We talked about that earlier. Basically, it's just as simple as roll through those and it's going to apply the algorithmic changes. I will also let you know on this particular unit, if you do long press up here, an initial long press up here on the LRF button, you can change those amplification levels. There's kind of a shortcut, and it's in the menu for, you know, or excuse me, in the owner's manual for this thing, but I just wanted you to be aware of that. So again, the other option that you're going to see in here potentially is this little symbol right here, which allows us to change the yardages. So in the case of this profile, it's a standard profile, but I have yardage, I have aiming points doped, or I have, you know, each one of those yardages, I have that correspondingly zeroed. So it gives me a way to change between those. That menu is sticky, so like you can see where I was just on that, and if I press that button again, it comes back up in that same position. That's pretty handy because, you know, like, so I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Like if I were here on brightness, I don't do anything and it times out. Next time I click the button, I'm on brightness. But if I thought I might have to change an aiming point, I could go ahead and switch to that. And that way there, when it times out, and so like, let's say for example, I'm sitting out here and I'm hunting, I'm on my 300 yard because I think that's where I'm most likely to be shooting, but something pops out there a little closer to me. It's just a matter of, you know, click that button, roll it down to 100, and as you can see, that reticle move position, I was ready to shoot the minute it gets there. So it's a pretty handy feature in there to be able to use that like that. Now, if you were in a ballistic profile, I want to just jump in here and show you that. So I'm going to switch to a ballistic profile. And so in a ballistic profile, you also, so in a ballistic profile with a laser range finding unit, when I range a target, it's going to take the baseline calculation of where I zeroed at and the ballistics trajectory curve that it's made, and it's going to position what's called the SPOA, or the suggested point of aim indicator on the reticle, correspondent to the distance that the laser rangefinder tells it that you're shooting. But let's say, for example, me and you are hunting together and I've got the laser rangefinder and I've already taken a yardage reading and I'm able to share that information with you, and I tell you, hey, you know, 500 yards, then you could turn around and short press that encoder button, roll to 500 yards, and the ballistic calculator will position that SPOA, I don't know if you know, the suggested point of aim indicator, onto the reticle for you. So as you can see right there, it's put that green X up on there, correspondent to what my hold point would be on this particular ballistic load. So, you know, you can do it manually along with the LRF, which is a new feature that they added. It's actually really, really handy if you're hunting with other guys. Sometimes, you know, because sometimes it can be hard to acquire a target, or it's just time consuming to do it. So, you know, if you got 2 or 3 guys out there hunting together and one of them's already acquired the distance, able to share that information with you, sometimes it's easier just to manually dope it. So, I think that's going to get us through the main portion of the menu. I'm going to have another video that comes out after this where we're going to go in detail into both sections of the main menu. There's essentially 2 big pages to the main menu, so I'm not going to do this all in one video. I'm going to break it up into a couple of them, but this will get you through kind of the basic concept of what you're going to see inside the scope and how the quick menu works, you know, how to use the outside of the scope. And again, be watching out here within a day or two. I'll have that other video out showing how the main menu works as well. If you're ever looking for any of these devices, or I can help you with anything, obviously we sell them. I run a website called foxoptic.com. If you have any questions, you can always call me toll-free, 877-806-2977. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have or help you out. You know, if you're looking to choose one of these devices, or if you have questions with one that you already have, be more than happy to help you out. So feel free to take advantage of that. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.